Welcome to Sisters in Arms. I'm Kerrie and Auclair.
And I'm Renee Gagne. Together we serve as a Second Amendment resource for our communities.
And today we got a special guest via Zoom. We have Klint Macro. He's the administrator for National Train a Teachers Day. So here we go.
Thank you so much, Klint, for joining us today. Greatly appreciate it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and let's jump into it.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you.
My background is kind of a little strange, I think, compared to many people in the firearms education community. I started off in the music industry, and this had been my background since a kid. My family had a country band. I was this little trained monkey playing drums back there, listening to my mom singing Patsy Cline songs. And I've always been a firearms owner and a shooter. And in Hollywood, I was working, a dear friend of mine was an armorer, and he would take actors to the range to show them how to, use the firearms so they looked right on camera and things. And he would bring me along, and I kind of fell into teaching those folks and other people that he would bring. And that was kind of my beginning into the firearms training world. And long story short, we moved back to Pennsylvania from California. This is where my wife and I are from, in Pennsylvania. And I just kind of fell into teaching more often, and then ultimately professionally, to where people were saying, here, let me give you some money. And that's when I started the Trigger Pressers Union, and things just kind of took off. And anyhow, that's kind of the background on me. You can always Google me and see a whole lot of stuff on there that you'd like to, as far as
you got a
other
lot of
information.
stuff that you do, so good for you. Yeah,
but specifically for National Train a Teacher Day, that started 7 years ago. Actually, Grant Gallagher, one of my colleagues, he's a prolific trainer from New Jersey. I'd worked with him previously prior to the event, and this was right when Parkland happened down in Florida. And of course, we were watching it unfold on the news just like everyone else was. And he called me up and says, man, we need to do something. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And he says, we need to train teachers. I said, well, I already do that, don't you? And like most of the instructors I know always would take teachers in and teach them and show them things and stuff. And he says, no, we need to do it like a grassroots movement and make it a unified front of educators from across the country doing something proactive to help empower our fellow Americans. Those were not exactly his specific words, but they were words to that effect. And I said, well, what do you want to call it? And he says, I don't know, like National Train a Teacher Day. I'm like, boom, I'm on it. And by 3 days later, I had the website up, put the alert out to folks. And we did that first year, very grassroots. That was just word of mouth from instructor to instructor. Kerrie Lightfoot actually helped out, sent out an email blast to all the cadre with well-armed women at the time. And that really helped to grow the cadre a bit. But there was, I want to say, just shy of 200 instructors, maybe closer to 100 that first year that put it on. And we trained a few people. We had almost 1,000 students, or end users rather. And that one was very little. It was all grassroots. Everyone just kind of at the local level sending out information about it. Rob Pincus had done a little thing on it, which helped to give us a little more of a national awareness of it. But the second year we did it, the United States Concealed Carry Association, the USCCA, and SABRE both came on as sponsors. And essentially what that means is they give free training supplies to active certified instructors that teach their respective curriculum, provided they supply them with a roster ahead of time. And that really helps to defer the cost. Because one of the missions we wanted to do with National Train a Teacher Day was to offer this training to those end users, those teachers, school staff, administrators, anyone that works with youth in a leadership capacity. Wanted to give them that training for free, totally free on National Train a Teacher Day.
Yep, this will be my third year doing it. So.
Yeah, so what I love about it, maybe Klint, maybe you can tell us what the curriculum entails for National Train a Teachers Day before I get into my opinions of how much I love it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a wide variety. National Train a Teacher Day is not about an armed teacher program. That's not at all what we want. I think an organized government mandated armed teacher program would be actually a really bad idea, in my opinion. But what we believe is that people who are charged with the safety and education of our students should be empowered to take on proactive steps to protect themselves and those that they love. And, I don't know of a teacher that doesn't love the students in their class. So the training is not just gun training. Some jurisdictions, the teacher can't even come near a gun. But other places they can. So there's concealed carry training for those that it's reasonable for. There's just basic gun safety. A lot of people are teaching like the NRA Home Firearm Safety Course, which essentially just teaches people how to take a gun and clear it of ammunition. So there's that kind of training. There's lots of first aid training. There's awareness training. There's a lot of home defense classes that are being put on that the tactics and techniques to make your home less attractive criminal can also be employed in a classroom. You know, so there's a wide variety. I even had one student or one instructor one year put on a class about precursor tells, looking at physical behavior to give an idea if they look like they're going to be aggressive. So
I think it's really good because you give the opportunity for the instructor to be creative, and that's really awesome too. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did Refuse to be a Victim, and then I did a class, a USCCA class with Bill Dalby, and then this year I'm going to do pepper spray. So
Cool.
Massachusetts is very tough. We don't have a lot of schools at all, maybe a couple private ones maybe, but no teachers carry in the school, not any public schools anyways.
Yeah,
So-
it's important to take proactive measures that exercise our rights, not restrict them. And as a matter of fact, I sent out a letter to all the instructors, kind of like notes from Klint, just some talking points and some things. And there was something to remember. The first year we did this during Parkland, there was a superintendent in the school district in Pennsylvania here who basically put a 5-gallon bucket of river rocks in every classroom. And a lot of the gun people were kind of poo-pooing that and kind of giving them criticism for it. And I said, no, that's a wonderful, proactive idea. You know, if a bad guy comes through that door, comes down the hall, and a whole bunch of kids whip rocks at them, that's going to disrupt what they're doing. That's a proactive measure.
It only took one rock to kill Goliath.
That's right. That's
And
right.
David
Now,
was
you
a
know,
very, very small man.
That's right.
Boy,
You know,
actually.
I would, you know, agree that a firearm is a much more efficient tool of defense, but the rock was something that he could do within the parameters of the politics and the laws of where he was, and that was a proactive step.
I love it.
So-
That made a point for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so even in those places like in Massachusetts, where, you know, I'm assuming that by law, a teacher could not carry a firearm. What better person to be an advocate for change than an armed or an educated and empowered teacher or school staff person that could go
Right.
out and make a informed case to school boards or legislatures.
Yeah, I think by law they can't, but they can get permission and then they can do it. It's a big thing. So, but technically we can't carry on the property or in the school.
Mm.
So, but
Right,
yeah,
right.
that's why I try to do classes like pepper spray, Refuse to be a Victim, because
Mhm.
I figured, you know, I can just bring people in to discuss that. And there's a topic that we talk about that's firearm related, you know, so they can learn more about it if they want to privately, without being, you know, put under the microscope, so to speak, because sometimes they can't. It's
Yeah,
just-
I want to be clear. I never wanted the program to make it seem as if we're pushing the idea of guns onto teachers. It's not that at all.
Right,
It's
yeah.
it's
Oh,
not
of course
about the gun.
Yeah.
The one
absolutely.
that I said and that Kerrie Ann taught a couple years ago, there was no talk of guns. It was, you know, we started with situational awareness, which, you know, you looked around the room and the students were like, wow, I never really thought that I shouldn't unlock my car door when I'm 100 feet away and can't see my car. Oh my gosh, I never thought of that.
Right.
Like
Mhm.
simple things like exterior illumination on your home. Oh,
Sure.
geez, I never really thought of my bushes being overgrown, that would be problematic. You know, so just bringing awareness to people, put the guns aside. The guns are just one element that we could use to protect ourselves. There are so many other things, and situational awareness is the first front line of defense. And so I loved that class. You honed in on that. And
Yeah, it was a
that
good
was a
class.
big, huge takeaway.
Yep.
And we didn't talk about guns at all.
No,
At
well,
all.
it's a component of it, but it's one
Yeah.
of the primary, you know, it's not the primary.
So for the
concern.
people that want nothing to do with guns, and that's their right.
Right.
There are so many other ways that you can protect yourself without a gun. So that's what I love about this class. I just love it so much.
Yeah, there's some fantastic suggestions in a lot of the home defense classes I mentioned before, but also the Countering the Mass Shooter Threat curriculum, which is from the USCCA. Michael Martin wrote the book, and it's presented in a very non-gun guy way, and it really gives people simple, very low cost or no cost things that they can do to make deterrence
Right,
for bad people doing bad things. You know, just having a way to lock the door. You know,
Right.
a tape line on the floor so that, you know, if you get yourself and the kids behind that tape line, no one can see anyone through the window. You know, those kind of things are huge. Parking, you know, asking the local police department to park a squad car in the parking lot. You know, that way, if the bad guy looks, like, is there a cop or a resource officer in there or not? Like,
yeah.
well,
Second guess.
if he probably guesses yes or no, he'll probably move on to another place. I mean, we have enough data to support that these types of criminals, these types of predators seek those gun-free zones and finding places where people aren't equipped to be able to defend themselves.
They
So
have a
if they
lot of
think,
wonderful classes. Absolutely.
yeah, if they think that maybe someone in there might fight back, they're more likely to move on to the next building or maybe disengage completely.
Right, like how many times have we seen that in history with criminals? They choose gun-free zones because they know that that's the path of least resistance. So
Yeah.
they purposely target gun-free zones. So that's a good point that you make.
Yeah, the other thing too that's very important for people to understand is the data that we do have, limited data, but we definitely have data on these types of perpetrators, is when they meet resistance, oftentimes they surrender or they off themselves. And
Yeah.
that ends the attack. So I think it's very important for people not just to run, hide, and fight, but to fight, to put some type of fight up. Even in the personal security classes we teach, especially like refuse to be a victim, there's really, the data tells us that there's no good reason for someone to just comply with a bad guy.
Right.
You're much better off to fight than
Right.
you are to just surrender and to submit. And I think the same thing rings true here. So having ways to be able to fight back, like having rocks in the room or throwing paper or, pushing the door shut. I mean, there's so many little things that can be done, but I think a lot of times people don't think about the horrible things because they want to be in their little security box.
In a little bubble.
And
Yep.
hey, I appreciate that. I've wanted to keep my son isolated from bad things, as he's a baby. But ultimately, we have to look at what the world is, and we have to prepare people for that eventuality or that potential eventuality. So, I think just talking about some of these things, making people think. One of my partners in the show, Matt Mallory with Meet the Pressers, he's got a lot of phrases he kind of like trademarked and coins. And I know he didn't come up with this one, but he says a lot, and it's very true. The body has a hard time going where the mind hasn't been. So to
That's
really
true.
think, yeah, what would I do if? What would I do if the window broke? What would I do if the door came open? And just thinking through those things through your mind is going to help people to be less susceptible to the freeze if it does in fact happen. At least
Right.
that's my opinion.
Yep. So this is your 7th year with National Train of Teachers, your 7th
Yeah,
anniversary.
the
So
7th annual.
that's
Who-
awesome.
Who
Now,
would believe it? Time is relentless, isn't it?
I know, it's great. I mean, I think that this is such a great program, and I wish more people would know about it. And we're going to share this video everywhere we possibly can. But so I guess the question I have is, when you first started in the first year, and now it's your 7th year, have you noticed a change? Are you getting a lot of feedback from individuals taking the class, teachers, or anybody that works with the kids, like you said?
Yeah, I mean, anyone that's ever reached out to give like an after action report has always been very thankful for the opportunity, especially in those places where talking about defense and maybe even firearms is a no thing. Just the fact that we're talking about it, I think pretty much everyone that's taken the time to write out an email to me has expressed that they were very appreciative of the opportunity. And I think that's a win because they're going to tell somebody else and they're going to tell somebody else and they'll share the information. Even if those people don't participate in next year's National Train a Teacher Day, perhaps they'll start looking into some of the materials that they were introduced to, and that will help to empower them. But
awesome.
it's all about taking proactive measures to protect oneself and those that they love, and exercising rights as opposed to just restricting other people's.
Right.
Clint, what is the cost of the class like that?
Well, for National Train a Teacher Day, the classes are free to teachers, school staff, administrators, and anyone that works with youth in a leadership capacity. We kind of tweaked that one on the second year because we had, scout leaders,
Oh,
we had
right.
people who were, au pairs, people that were like,
Daycare.
like the woman on Sound of Music, right? Someone like that wanted to get some training too. Yeah, nannies. We had clergy. We had folks who were, rabbis and priests reach out and like, yeah, absolutely. If you do anything in a leadership capacity, football coaches with youth, you're welcome. So they
Yeah.
can come in and take the class for free. And some instructors are offering a National Train a Teacher Day class where it's specifically for that. Other instructors are saying, hey, if you're a teacher, school staff admin, or youth leader, you can have a seat in my class for free. They'll just comp them a seat. It really just depends on
Oh,
what
I
the
gotcha.
individual instructor is
Yeah.
doing.
I
Yep.
love that. I love that. Free education that could save your life. Who wouldn't want to be part of that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And
'cause
this
you're
year we're doing it on June 22nd.
Yep, my
Saturday,
birthday.
June 22nd. Happy birthday.
And you're gonna do it, right?
Yeah, I've
yeah.
already got it going. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to fill the seats,
Cool. You'll have to bring some cake out and
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. Where's
You'll
it?
have to put the candles out with your inert pepper spray.
Yeah. There you go. That's funny.
So Matt Mallory, speaking of pepper spray, he taught me everything I know about pepper spray.
Yeah, he's a very skilled
Unbelievable
instructor.
teacher.
Yep,
Unbelievable.
that was a fun
teacher.
class.
That was a fun class. Oh man, he's a really great teacher.
Yeah, he's actually recently been elevated to, I think it's senior master instructor.
yeah,
So
senior
he can
master,
now
yeah.
kind of ordain training counselors, for lack of a better
love
term.
it. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good dude. I've been working with Matt for many years. The show actually, Meet the Pressers has been on now. This is our 6th season this year.
Really?
So yeah, been doing
Wow,
it for
I kinda
6
asked
years.
that the last time I was on.
Huh?
Yeah, time is relentless.
Mm-hmm. So I heard a story yesterday from my sister, and I didn't want to suck up too much time on the show, but this kind of goes with our topic that, you know, we really living in our little bubble. We think we're safe. Kerrie Ann and I come from these tiny little communities where not a whole lot of crime happens, and you think you're safe. So my sister and I have a church friend who's a mom of 6 children. This was a few years ago before COVID. She drove to the hospital to pick up her daughter who was doing some volunteer work. And being a mom of 6, she's like, I'm just going to take a nap in the parking lot while I wait for her to come out. Exhausted, right? 6 kids, babies, you know, she got a minute to relax. So she falls asleep in the hospital parking lot in Fall River.
Oh, God.
Come on, you know where I'm going with this? But it's a hospital parking lot, right? Like you think cameras, security, like what's going to happen to you?
Sure.
How many times do I park my car in my hospital parking lot before I go in for my shift? And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to read this email. My sister told me the story, and I'm totally going to change the way that I practice. But she fell asleep. She woke up to a man getting in her SUV with a knife, holding her, you know, he wanted money and he wanted her to drive. And this woman is smaller than you. Kerrie Ann's tiny. This woman, she's not even your height. I just have goosebumps. So I don't know how long the travel lasted and where he actually took her, but she kept crying and saying she didn't have money. I mean, this is somebody from our church. It's crazy. You think it's not going to happen to you because you feel like you're safe. You have this false sense of security. This is a woman who is just an everyday plain Jane mom, taking care of kids, living in, you know, suburbia land. It happened to her. So long story short, he ended up realizing that he wasn't going to get any money from her, threw the knife on the floor and got out and ran away. The cops ended up getting him, thank God. And nothing happened to her except for the trauma of, you know, being kidnapped and being forced to drive, being held by knife point. But it's things like that. Like we just have to think about what we're doing and stop having this false sense of security that we're going to be fine because nothing really happens in the hospital parking lot, right? In broad daylight. This was broad daylight, by the way. So that's what I love about National Train a Teacher. I can't harp on it enough with the situational awareness that, you know, often as gun instructors, we kind of overlook it and get right into the meat and potatoes of the gun and how to be safe with it and how to protect yourself. And we miss the whole front line of don't get yourself into those positions and then you won't have to get yourself out a lot of times.
Well, heck, I mean, you know, the gun is a tool of last resort, but I think your primary component of your everyday carry, whatever that is, should be that defensive mindset and thinking defensively. And, you know, I had a woman in class say, what happens if I get jacked up at the gas station at 4 a.m? I said, well, if you never go to the gas station at 4 a.m, you'll never get jacked up at the gas station at 4 a.m.
Right.
You know, and that's a much different situation than the person you talked about being in broad daylight at the hospital. But on the other hand, just thinking, all right, what's the pros and cons of this? You know, is there a better place I could take a nap? And that's easy for me to say sitting here right now, but I think, you know, to your point, most people don't think that bad things can happen to them. And we need to have a quality of life. We shouldn't walk around being fearful and afraid, but also, you know, being a little bit prepared I call it, I'm not paranoid, I'm preparanoid.
Nice,
Nice,
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I
that's,
love
that's,
that.
that's a Meet the Pressers t-shirt. that's coming out.
Was that in that one too?
No, that one was mine. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
there you
love
go.
Yeah, but anyhow, just think defensively. Just remember, the primary component of your everyday carry should be that defensive mindset,
Right.
and that applies whether you have the gun or you don't have the gun. I come up and teach in Massachusetts sometimes, and I can't legally have a gun there, so or at least carry my normal stuff anyhow.
Right.
Same thing with New York and New Jersey. So it's like, am I helpless when I go there? No. Am I lacking in my defensive tool that I normally carry? Yes, but the defensive mindset should be the primary thing. And as you had mentioned, we're more likely to not be in a situation where we need to use that gun if we think defensively.
Exactly. I just like National Train of Teachers Day too, because I think it's awesome because you're providing national education for free everywhere. And when you're educating our society or our teachers or whoever it may be, you're creating safer communities by educating everybody, and they're going to pass that along to everyone else. So kudos for you for starting this, you and Grant. I mean, that's great.
No, I mean, when I go to the zoo, I don't get to look at the animals because I continuously pick up trash. So if I see something that I can do and it's something that I can do to help, I do it. Yeah, it's been a lot of work over the years, but it's been very fulfilling. And to hear stories of people that have taken the classes, offered the classes, and it's changed their life, then we're doing the right thing here.
That's awesome. So we have a few minutes. What would you like everybody to really know about National Train of Teachers Day? And if they're an instructor, because it's not just instructors either, because you have other individuals that reach out to you and say, hey, I want to do that on the 22nd. I'm a karate studio instructor. So it's not just firearm instructor. So how does somebody get involved? Obviously you have a website. Do you want to kind of briefly talk about that?
Yeah, well, first off, for teachers, school staff, admin, and anyone that works with youth in a leadership capacity, if they want to take advantage of free training on June 22nd, which is this year's National Train a Teacher Day, you can go to nationaltrainateacherday.com. It's long, lots of words. nationaltrainateacherday.com, and go on to the training page, and you can find where there's training available nearby. This year we went through and really tried to update the list, but if anyone looks for training and they don't get a response, or if there's no one near them, my contact information is there, and I can reach out to the network of instructors that I've worked with over the years in many organizations and see if I can find somebody that will offer training to you. If not, perhaps we'll set up a Zoom class and I'll put it on for you.
Well, that's a great idea too.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to find training, look on the website or contact me, and I'll see what I can do to help facilitate that. If there's any instructors that want to offer their time, effort, and energy, their blood, sweat, and tears for the cause, there's a volunteer page on the website. So you just put in your information there. I make sure that everyone is an NRA, USCCA, or some type of national organization trained instructor, or certified instructor. There are a few exceptions there, but they had a different lineage, and I was able to substantiate that it's not just some guy pretending to be instructor.
Right.
And most of the people that have volunteered are folks that I've worked with over the years, or through someone else. Like, prior to meeting you here, you'd worked with Matt Mallory. So, hey, Matt, is she a good dude? Like, yep, she's a good dude. All right, fine. So there is a vetting. Yeah, there's a vetting process there.
There is a vetting process. And you know what I'd like to is, especially if you're doing this for the first time, you emailed us a really nice packet. In the packet's everything we need to be successful with this event. So that's great, because you emailed us a media release, a whole flyer, everything. Everything.
Yeah, there's fly for the instructors. They get the promo kit. So there's a media release. There's a flyer. There's and all this stuff can be filled in with your particular information. There's 11 talking points. Is it 11? Yeah, I think it's 11 talking points. So if you do choose to go in front of the camera or do an interview or something, stick to the talking points.
Yep.
And if you're not comfortable, if media reaches out, send them to me. I'll talk to them. There's information on how to obtain the supplies from either USCCA or SABRE. The deadline for that, incidentally, anyone watching it needs to be submitted by June 3rd to get this
Yeah,
stuff in
that's pushing
time.
it. I'm like, oh, I gotta hurry up, sign up for the class.
Yeah, but I try to supply all that. You know, obviously, I'm doing what I can on a national front to spread awareness for the movement.
Right.
USCCA has certainly put out some press releases on it. John Petrolino has written articles on it in the past. So, you know, we typically get a few big, like, you know, either podcasts or shows or articles to get placed, but it's on the individual instructor on the local level to promote it wherever they can. And you know, some places, some of the instructors have great relationships with the school board, so they're able to actually market directly to the teachers. Other places, it's like, shh, you can't even mention
No,
it. So
I
they're,
tried to do that.
yeah,
It was like, oh my
yeah.
goodness.
So it's a little more like, you know, underground, I guess, if it were.
Right.
But no matter what your deal is, what I tell all the instructors or the volunteer instructors, hey, if you can change one life, then it's worthwhile.
Right.
And if you
And
agree with
on-
me,
on
then
that
give
note,
that
that's-
person the best darn class you possibly can.
Yep, I love it.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I love this. We'll be able to put this everywhere and spread some awareness because this is definitely a program that more people should know about. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
And I know you do so much other things too, so we would love to have you back on the show sometime, but thanks again for joining us.
Anytime. And you have an open invite to meet the pressers as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Well, that was a great episode.
That was great. We crammed a lot of stuff in 30
Yes.
minutes.
And there's so much to learn about National Train a Teachers Day, so definitely check out the website. And if you have any questions at all, email us at sistersinarms2022@gmail.com. Until then,
Stay safe.
keep vigilant.